Welcome back. Now, South Africa's youth unemployment rate sits at 45.5%. This rate is significantly higher for those under the age of 25, with this bracket ranked as the most economically marginalized in the world. Gaming may be the answer to alleviate this crisis. The esports industry is expected to raise over R500,000 by 2029. And with nearly 27 million gamers nationwide, HP has surveyed the youth and found that 70% are interested in gaming careers, while 80% are oblivious to the education and training opportunities available in this space. Yesh Surjoodeen, HP's MD for Southern and Central Africa, joins us with greater perspective on this. Thank you so much for your time, Yesh. Now, just for people who are not familiar with this space, when we talk about gaming and esports, what are we actually talking about here?
Yeah, good, and thanks very much for having me. It's really my pleasure. Gaming and esports is really an interesting area and industry that's starting to grow quite globally, strongly, but also now that we see it in South Africa. We're talking about the ability to be part of a gaming ecosystem, and that isn't just about playing games. It's about designing games and creating games and working within the industry and knowing the ins and outs of how the gaming industry works. Yeah. And so it could be in multiple disciplines, from being a participant to being a player to being a creator.
Yeah. And you talk about how this could actually boost the efforts of digital advancement and equity. How so?
Yeah, that's a really important tangent of it. As HP, we're really committed to what we call our sustainability charter. And one of the three pillars between climate and, more importantly, also about humans and the person or the health that we talk about, the individuals, we call it human rights. The third pillar is centered around digital equity. Now, digital equity is prominent across the world and an important tangent, but digital equity is really perhaps more a focus area for us in Africa, because we really just want to be sure that the youth and individuals that have access to technology, we as HP can help bolster and grow their digital equity indexing and scoring on a global level. So when we talk about digital equity, it's about making it equitable opportunity for all to be in the digital world and to be able to have the tools and trade to be able to compete. And that helps with learning, it helps with empowerment, and also helps with education.
Well, actually, talk to me about what has stood out for you in this gaming report in South Africa, and really particularly zooming into the fact that gaming is usually known for recreational activities, where now we're actually looking at it from a career perspective where it could add significant economic value.
Yes, true. I think you said it earlier. You know, there's a high opportunity for us in South Africa. 26 million gamers that are involved in the environment. I think the one key standout, and there's a couple of really important points that we pick up in the report. The one that stands out for me is that you know, in the gaming community, 46% of the respondents were female. So it shows that there's a very equitable balance when you talk about the gender and the opportunity created between females in a tech environment.
Yeah.
But perhaps some of the other important aspects we found out in the gaming report that we performed is that there's definitely an interest. So there's a huge appetite in South Africa. 70% of our respondents have showed interest in pursuing a career in gaming.
Yeah.
But perhaps in that sense, retrospectively, 80% of the respondents didn't know where to go and didn't believe we had enough development programs or knowledge or information out there for them to go and serve to their need or their aspiration. And perhaps that then leads us to formal education, because certainly in that aspect, what we see is that 80% of the respondents also say they do believe that the formal education system should be a little bit more supportive in promoting a career in gaming, as an example, right?
Well, actually, talk to us about that gap and really how, you know, how much room there is for it to be closed. Are there conversations that you are having with the Department of Education in terms of trying to integrate, you know, this kind of, you know, the gaming factor into the holistic education system?
Yeah, let me just zoom out a little bit and talk to you a little more about our digital equity, because it's not just a South African issue. We see it as a global issue. And in Africa, primarily, what we are doing is engaging with a lot of ministries. If you look in the scope of Africa today, we've signed no less than 7 MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, with government officials and government institutions, talking primarily about how do we take digitization into the education arena, how do they support, not only supporting the learners in terms of digitizing and bringing digital technology into the learning environment, but at the same time, how do we also empower teachers and how do we empower the entire ecosystem in the education arena? And that's a really positive sign, because that means that there's definitely a will to play. There's definitely interest in government saying, help us as tech companies and help us as public-private in the enterprise to try and build that and go forward. So we have a myriad of programs. We have programs that talk to the learners. We have talked to the teachers. We have talked about the educators within and kind of make that change, and how do we as a tech company build them up. But I think also what's important is that we understand that it's not just the formalized education sector when we talk about growing and building. And so we all an entrepreneur pillar in that equation. And so yes, there's a very much a feedback, willingness to sit around the table, and there's willingness to discuss on how we can help encourage and going forward.
Just lastly, as we wrap up the conversation, Yesh, I do know that within HP there is a tool, certification called the HP Gaming Garage. I mean, just after completion of that certification, how ready is a person for the world of work, and really what career paths are available to them?
Yeah, I would absolutely say this is not a formalized degree process that allows him to say, fine, at the end of the day, I've got a formalized degree. It really is a professional certificate, but important to know the weight of that certificate. That certificate is a certificate that's partnered with edX, right? And we work with really important and necessary, but at the same time, key professors in this fraternity design the content. That becomes so important because when we talk to some organizations like Young Africa Network, we're seeing that actually that's great. We don't have to create more curriculum. The curriculum itself is really quite for us to be able to put people in that position of understanding gaming. And what it will do is perhaps take that first step forward, Zinati. It's really important that we find out, firstly, there's interest and there's excitement. Do you find this as your play? You have a certificate, you understand the ecosystem. But as the community grows, and it's growing quite fast, right? We have more than 20,000 global participants today. I think we're creating a market on an area that's growing and accelerating quite fast. So that really means, ultimately, I think that the market is going to grow quicker. We're going to see a stronger community come out of it. The opportunities will rise, and we can be reckoned on a global level from right down here in South Africa.
And the career opportunities aren't just limited to gaming, right? There is a wider network there.
Correct. It talks not just about gaming, it's about esports management, the whole ecosystem, a part in that. It's also game design and programming, but now we've also added another module called generative AI in gaming, so that we can help accelerate AI as a subject within gaming that allows people who have an interest in AI and now see the relevance of AI in gaming and how that can be interfaced. So while you may become an AI expert or someone relevant and well-knowledged in AI, there's also the opportunity for you to understand what that means for the gaming environment as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and really giving us insights into a sector that not a lot of us are aware of. That was Yesh Surjoodeen, HP's MD for Southern and Central Africa.